Hello, Open Dreams, Bamenda. I'm so happy to be able to speak to you via this medium. Unfortunately, I cannot be live with you, but I thought it wise to use this medium to communicate with you. I'd like to thank the team on the ground for organizing this graduate summit, and I wish you the very best. I pray and encourage participants to take full advantage of this session because this should be very impactful for them. So once again, my apologies for not being able to do the live. However, I am here and you can hear me. And if there are questions, please channel them via your regional coordinator, and I will be very happy to answer. So before we get started, I'd like to say I'm Anestin Chi, and today I will be sharing some tips with you around approaching scholarship ACEs. So in this session, I will be looking at two things mainly. So the first thing we will be looking at are tips for creating a scholarship application. And then we'll be looking at how to approach scholarship ACEs. So let's get started. With scholarship applications, what tips and tricks? Before I go on to share whatever tip or trick I have with you, I like to say these are not gospel truths. They are not written anywhere. They are my own ideas, born from my own experiences, which I put together. So these tips are my experience of applying for a program without having to know so much about the program and not being selected. And so months after I wasn't selected, I decided to look at the program in detail and look at my application. And then I found out why I wasn't even close to ever being selected. And this is how I generated these tips. Also, with my experience applying for various scholarships and being a lucky winner, I've been able to build these tips and tricks. So they are basically from my own experiences. They are not gospel truth, but they've worked for me, and I do believe they should work for you. So the first tip I'd like to share with you for writing a winning scholarship application is doing your findings about the program. Please do not apply for any program without understanding the program. You need to read, when you see a scholarship application, take time to read it, read the goals, the objectives of the program, and make sure you understand the goals and objectives. You also want to understand the eligibility criteria. Are you eligible? I'd like to say that some pre-selections are automated, so they are done by computers. And if the system says the requirement is that you should have 5 years of work experience or 2 years of work experience, and in your application, you did not mention any work experience, the system, the computer automatically eliminates you. So there is no point applying for something when you are not eligible. So you want to read about the program to find out, one, if you are eligible for that program, then you can apply. The next thing you want to find out is, and which is very important, it's about the program goals and objectives. Please do not apply without understanding the program goals and objectives. And once you understand the program goals and objectives, make sure your application synchronizes with those goals and objectives. I'd like to share my experience of the first time I came across the Fulbright Sea program with you. So in one of my internet wanderings, I landed on the Fulbright Sea program. No one had ever told me about it. I'd never heard about it. And so I talked to a few persons and no one knew what it was. And I talked to colleagues I thought were closer to the US Embassy at the time, and they had no idea. And I hurriedly concluded that nobody knew about the program. But another thing was I saw it at the nick of time. But I had this, I thought of writing to the embassy to find out if this was valid. And then I got feedback that the program was valid and it was shutting down in 5 days. Anyway, from the day I saw the announcement. And so I decided to hurriedly put up an application without reading the goals of the program. Months after I wasn't selected, I decided to read about this program, and I had a shock of my life. The very first sentence of my personal statement was contrary to the program goals. And so you want to imagine how my application went rolling at the speed of light straight into the trash. So do your findings about the program so that your application doesn't get running at high speed just to end up in the bin. Make sure you stay in the race and not in the bin. And for you to do that, you need to do findings about the program. And so read every detail and ensure that your application syncs with the goals and objectives of the program you are applying for. The second tip I'd like to share, it's about time. Most scholarship windows are open for a month, over a month, 2 months, and 3 months. And here we are, relaxing. I'm going to apply tomorrow. I'm going to apply the day after. Oh no, that thing is still far. Today is just the 15th of March. I'm sure I can make it. The deadline is the 17th, so I still got the 17th of April. I still got about a month. And then when it is 1 week, and I'm still a victim of this, I'm not telling you that I don't fall prey to this. I still fall prey to it. But a good approach is to devote time to the application process. And one way of doing so is by starting in time. So do not procrastinate and say, oh, I'm going to do it when it's April 5th. After all, the deadline is April 17th. Today is just March 15th. You might be caught up by time. And of course, when you devote time to the process, then you have the opportunity that enables you to prepare many drafts, have the opportunity to look at them, solicit the helps of reviewers and mentors. But if you pop up at the nick of time and you're expecting somebody to look at your essay, you're going to submit it the day after tomorrow. I'm not sure you know the reviewers schedule. You don't know what they're also struggling with. And I feel it's not fair enough. And of course, you shouldn't be angry if they are not able to help you review your application because it's sent in late. So devote time to the process so that you are able to apply, rather not apply, but write the essays, fill in the application, check, ask people's opinions, send to a reviewer, talk to mentors. It's going to help you. And so when you see a scholarship announcement and the deadline is still far, please do not procrastinate. Start in time, because before you know it, time would have cut you short. So the third tip I'd like to share with you, it's that understand that you do not have monopoly of information. Most of the times when we see scholarship applications, and especially in context or a scholarship no one has had, or you think no one has had, you believe that you are the first person to hear about it. My dear friends, you are not the first. And you are not the only person withholding that information. If you go back to the story I just told you, the little anecdote I told you at the beginning, when I first stumbled on the Fulbright Seed program and I asked a few persons here and there, and no one seemed to know about it, I told myself, and that was one of the reasons why I hurriedly submitted whatever I hurriedly submitted. That went straight into the bin because it did not sync with the program goals. The thing that happened to me is I believed that people did not know about the program. And so I was so convinced, saying, Anestin, you're the only person who knows about this. And of course, whatever you write, you obviously be selected. After all, you have already sent an email to the embassy, so the embassy knows you are aware of this program and they are expecting your application. Other teachers are not aware, so maybe by the time you send in your application, they will just select you. Hell no, it doesn't happen like that. And here was I thinking I had monopoly of information. Let me shock you. That year, 4 scholars, I think that's the year that got the highest number of scholars from Cameroon. 4 scholars traveled to the UK, and here to the US rather. And here I was in Cameroon, not even knowing what was happening because my application had been trashed, probably shredded before being trashed. So not that you do not have monopoly of information. Of course, if 4 scholars were selected, you want to believe that many applied and that it was a tough competition for those 4 to be selected. And they were actually good. And I can tell you that because as a scholar and also someone who has had the opportunity to review applications for the same program, I know how highly competitive it is, and it is a very lengthy process. Anything Fulbright, it's at least a year. Whether it's Fulbright, see a year of application. The process is quite lengthy. Fulbright foreign student program, it's at least 2 years of application because it's a lengthy process. And the decision is not just made at the level of the embassy in Cameroon. The decision, there are various panels at different levels, and the final decision comes from Washington. So you want to know how competitive it is. And so if 4 teachers were selected that year, it means thousands applied. And here was Ernestine believing she had monopoly of information simply because she had asked a few persons here and there and no one knew about it, or simply because she had never heard about it. Do not be deceived. There are worldwide competitors for some scholarships. It is not about one person being selected from Cameroon or 2 persons being selected. No, it is about we need 10 scholars from around the globe, and the first 10, the top 10 applicants are chosen. You may want to wonder why 4 scholars traveled from Cameroon in that year. I think it was 2017. And in other years, we have 1 scholar, 2 scholars. Why? Simply because there are no slots allocated per country. So if there are top scholars coming from one country, they are placed. In fact, at the selection level, at the final selection level, the countries are not considered. The role of the embassy is to do the first, the role of the US embassies in the various countries is to do the shortlisting. So reduce the number of applicants, select some, interview them, and then send selected applicants to an international pool. And once they are in the international pool, their countries are not considered. And so there are worldwide competitors. Be mindful of that and pull every string on your side so that you are not disappointed at the end. And the 4th tip I'd like to share with you is address every aspect of the application. Oftentimes, essay questions have different aspects, some 2, some 3, aspects per question. Please ensure that you answer all aspects of the essay questions. If you answer part and leave another part, then you will not have answered it completely. Make sure if a question says, why are you the best candidate for this scholarship? And what impact will the scholarship make in your community? And you spend your time talking about why you feel you are the best candidate without talking about the impact upon return, then you would not have answered every question, every aspect. Answer every aspect of each question and address every aspect of the whole application. But in as much as you want to do that, you want to touch on every aspect, address the application fully, ensure that you have a central theme. Your application should not end up like the strands of the hair of a mad lady, with some strands going left and some strands going right. There should be a connection. If you look at the background image on this slide, you see the various dots. Those are the little points of the application. But you see the lines, they are connections. So there should be connections from one part of your application to the other, or from within the same questions or question. So ensure you address every aspect, yet have a central theme for your application. So these are the few tips I'd like to share with you. Maybe I end here and then I move on to the second part. Please, if you do have questions, I'm happy to respond to them maybe some other time, but please do channel your questions. So let's move into the second part, how to approach ACEs. Now you know the tips, you know the tricks, you know what you're supposed to do. You've read the program goals. You started your application in time. You are looking at every aspect of the application. But yeah, looking at every aspect of the application entails answering essay questions. I know the next question is, how do we answer these essay questions? How do we write a personal statement? How do we write a cover letter? So these are a few things I like to say. Do you know this approach? What does the acronym STAR stand for? It stands for situation, task, action, results. This is an approach that is generally used to grade scholarship applications. So the reviewers want to see you talk about things that are specific and not vague. So take one specific example, a concrete, and present the situation. What situation were you in, or what is the situation in your country? What's the context? Let me use the word context. Now, what was the task to be accomplished? What did you as an individual do? Not what did we do. We do not talk about the we in scholarship applications. We talk about the I. So talk about what you did as an individual and what the outcome of your actions were. So let me give a very common example. They say, talk about a time when you've demonstrated leadership qualities. Instead of going around and defining terms and saying leadership entails this, and they've given you 500 words, you're wasting words, my friend. The person who asks you that question knows the meaning of leadership. Instead of citing Barack Obama, Nelson Mandela as leaders, you are not addressing the question. So talk about you. Even if they ask you, what is your understanding of leadership? Talk about yourself. So say that you give a concrete situation to show that you understand the meaning of leadership. So for example, let me give a very quick example. Let me see whether I can make up one. And I'm going to be speaking from the perspective of a classroom teacher because that's who I am. So it's easier for me to find examples that are common to my work environment. So I remember, and here comes my example. I'd like you to look at the elements of the star in the response I'm going to give you. So I remember when I was transferred to Government Technical College in Dimi in 2017, there were no clubs in school. In fact, no extracurricular activities, although the ministerial text says Wednesdays afternoons are dedicated for these activities. And so I felt that the learners were missing out on an important aspect of their development. So I engaged colleagues. I started by talking to the discipline master about the importance of extracurricular activities and clubs. Having been able, after convincing him, we took the matter to the principal. I convinced the principal about how we could organize these clubs in our context, taking into consideration the remote nature of our own setting. And with his approval, I talked to colleagues, engaged them, I started by creating two clubs, the bilingualism and the cultural theater club. I'm just saying anything. And I engaged colleagues, drafted action plans and activities for these clubs, and then engaged them to supervise work with the students while I coordinated the activities overall. By the end of the academic year, we were able to organize the bilingualism the Bilingualism Day celebration for the first time since the creation of the school. We are also able to engage in an inter-school competition with students from a neighboring school during the youth week. The English club activities help learners to be more interested in the learning of English language, and this had an impact on their performance at the CAP. CAP is a technical GCE. And so we had the performance at the technical GCE rose from 15% in 2016 to close to 30% in 2018. Did you see the star in what I said? I started by providing a context. When I was transferred to Government Technical College in 2017, there was this need to establish, so that is the situation. Now the task, there was this need to establish extracurricular activities and have clubs running because they contribute to the development of learners. So what did I do? I talked to the discipline master, got his support, and then he joined me in talking to the principal. Then I moved to talking to colleagues, engaged a few passionate colleagues, elaborated the club activities, gave them to just supervise, and then I coordinated, I was overseeing these activities. What were the results? First, Bilingualism Day was celebrated for the first time in the history of the school. Secondly, we're able to have an inter-school competition. Thirdly, the English language class helped to motivate students, help to spur learners' motivation in learning English. And the effects were visible in their performance in the national certified exam, because their performance rose from 15 to 30% or thereabout. Those are the results. So do you see how I have demonstrated that I have leadership qualities, that I can pick on I can see a problem, act on it, Remember, all through I was saying because I need to show that I have those leadership qualities. It is not that the administration sat and then we were thinking that we could start organizing club activities, and then they said, Anestin, the principal said, Anestin, go and organize club activities. No, it is Anestin who took the initiative, which shows she has leadership qualities. Great, but how do we factor this STAR approach in writing personal statements and cover letters? I like to say that a personal statement and a cover letter is a continuum from past, present, into the future. When you are discussing the past, because if they ask you, if you're applying for admission at the university, of course, you need to submit a personal statement. You need to tell them why you want to come to that university. If you're applying for a scholarship, you need to tell them why you think you are the best candidate for that scholarship, or why this scholarship. So you might want to think of that in terms of your past, your present circumstances, and a projection into the future. When you're talking about your past, it means you are looking at your context. What is your context? Are you an underprivileged child who grew up without parents, faced a number of challenges? Were you motivated by a teacher in secondary school to become a teacher? What did that teacher do for you to be motivated? But if you are looking at a problem in the past, it's not an opportunity for you to lament. Look for problems that are manageable, because remember, you have to talk about them in your present and in the future. Look at things that are urgent, significant, and engaging for others. Now, what kind of degree are you going to do? I like to come back to the example of you being an orphan growing up without parents and probably being in the street. That is your past. That was your context. That was your reality. You know the challenges you faced, and you want to go and study a course maybe in social welfare. That is a good starting point. Now that you struggle through these challenges and evolved, what is your present circumstance? What have you done so far to change the situation of things? You grew up like that. You faced a number of challenges. And so you said other people will not face those challenges because you are there. What have you done or are you doing to help? You need to show that you have been doing something before you can say, if you give me the opportunity to study this, then I would gain more knowledge to be able to move a step further. So what are you doing about a particular situation? If you have grown up and then you started looking at children, trying to gather them, or maybe talk to the social welfare, or you've just been raising some little funds and yet to support them, what difference? So what difference will your studies make? Of course, you have been doing something, but you have not been doing enough. So you need to say, this is what I have done, but these are some challenges I have. And I see a particular course in your university that says this. And I'm convinced that by the time I have the opportunity to study this course, I will be able to. You are talking about the difference that scholarship, that admission is going to make, what impact it will have, how it will help you to address challenges upon return. And of course, this needs to be interconnected from the past, passing through the present and into the future. Because remember, it is a personal statement. There are no personal statements. It is a cover letter, not cover letters. And so there should be that connection from your past, which exposes the context, the challenges, to your present, which exposes things you are doing to alleviate, to ameliorate the situation, and probably blockages you are facing. And that's why you need this support, this opportunity to be able to make a difference. And this is exactly how you plan to make the difference upon return. What difference will you make upon return? In concrete terms. It's not upon return, I am going to. And of course, I said choose things that are manageable, which means they are within your scope of influence. Now, let me take an example of the teacher that I am. If you are going for the Fulbright program and you say that upon return, because you have gone and studied in the US, upon return, you're going to change the Cameroon curriculum or syllabus, and then no one is going to give you a scholarship because you are not the minister of Cameroon, and even the minister of secondary education or basic education or higher education. Even those ministers do not have what it takes to completely change the curriculum or the syllabus. So who are you? A simple classroom teacher who goes to the US and then by the time you return, you think you want to change the curriculum. That is not something that is manageable. That is not something that is within your control. That is not something that is within your sphere of influence. So choose things that are within your sphere of influence. As a teacher, there are lots of things that I can do without the ministry. For example, I grew up with this being inspired by a teacher to become a teacher. That's my past, that's my context. And so far, I've been teaching for 5 years and I've been enjoying my job. But I face challenges because since I left teacher training college, I've not had opportunities for professional development, any opportunity for professional development. And the knowledge I got while at ENS, at the high teacher training college, didn't prepare me enough for the tasks on the field, for the practical reality. And so, with lack of professional development, I am really struggling. I believe that this course is an opportunity for me to go and learn pedagogy, methodologies, teaching styles that will help improve my practice. Improve my practice and thus benefit my learners, make the learning interesting and engaging for them. Upon return, I am not coming to change anything, no. I'm not coming to change the curriculum. What I am coming to do upon return is to implement those methodologies in my classroom. But knowing that my classroom is just a small unit, share that knowledge with colleagues through departmental meetings, informal coffee chats, webinars, conferences. So share with colleagues in the school and on the national territory. Organize seminars, workshops to disseminate, to cascade the knowledge. You see how I am moving from my past into my present and projecting into the future. Where am I coming? Where are you coming from? Where are you now? Where are you heading to? Very important. And in doing so, remember to define the context, say what the task is, what was the expectation, what you actually did, your own actions, and the results you achieved. I wish I was live because I really do not know how to do a presentation, a recorded presentation, when I'm talking about personal statement and cover letters, because I prefer it to be very interactive. But I'm sure I've been able to touch on a few points. But just as I did mention, if you have questions, please forward them via your coordinator, and I'll be happy to answer them. With that, I say it was really lovely being able to talk to you via this medium. I wish you the very best in your graduate summit. Please do enjoy. Bye-bye.